it's needed. So I think we need policies, better policies to enable people to move so that they do not have to move in conditions of vulnerability and exploitation. That would be number one on the international agenda. The second one, we can go very quickly over because we've all said that we must reduce what I call the stickiness of the pipes that carry remittances. The remittances must reach the ones who need them. And the third point is that we need fresh thinking about how to ensure that these remittances have maximum developmental impact. On one thing, the international community agrees, and that is that remittances contribute immensely to poverty reduction. But then there's the second challenge. How can we ensure that they contribute to development and to sustainable development? Until now, we've said mostly, fairly quickly, let's mobilize remittances and learn how to invest them. I think we must reformulate the question and ask ourselves the question, since these are people-to-people linkages, how can we enable the recipient to make use of these remittances more cleverly so that they satisfy not only immediate survival needs, but help the individuals and the families to grow economically.
Thank you very much indeed, Gervais. And may I add a request for sustainable energy supplies this morning? Oh, thank you. Somebody listening. Ambassador Deepak, Dhital, how do you see that final question we had there, greater impact?
Yes, the bottom billion, the poor countries, in order to bring them into the inclusive and sustainable world that we are embarking upon through the SDGs and post-2015 development goals, I believe that, the migration and remittances, it must be an important component of the coming order of things. Because there is also some dearth of manpower in some part of the world, whereas there is some demographic dividend in developing countries and LDCs like us. And there should be a match, and it must be an inclusive approach. And well, there is no doubt that remittances is very helpful to fight poverty, hunger, and inequality in the world, and to make the world more equity-based and just. If we really focus on human resources at the bottom end and raise their living standard, and along with those who are dependent on them, associated with them, the family members, we are basically doing good things for the people, for this Mother Earth. We are lifting people up. And that too, the destination countries also benefit. They do benefit from the development impact. And whatever they remit is small compared to the development gains that the destination countries receive. So the global community should have a favorable disposition and takes enough measures to protect the rights of the migrant workers.
Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador. Gloria Grandolini, your closing comments, please, briefly.
Maybe to reiterate that this is a very complex agenda, and that truly to be able to be successful, it has to be dealt with in a comprehensive way and an integrated way. And I think that has two dimensions. One dimension is that this has to be put in the context of financial inclusion more broadly and of financial sector development and regulation on both sides, recipient and sending countries. But then the second point is that this is something that really we have to do it together, and that it's really public sector, private sector, regulator, international financial institutions, countries that are receiving the money in countries from where money is being sent. That this is not going to be a unique solution, but really has to be a concerted effort. And I think for like the one we're having these 3 days is exactly what we need to raise the awareness and to work together towards this solution.
You need to carry on cracking the whip, Gloria, louder and louder. Peter Sutherland, as the kind of international lead, one of the international lead voices on this issue, 10 years you've been in this post, how would you answer that question we had there, how to have a greater impact on the millions of lives of migrants and their families?
I'd focus particularly in conclusion on one thing that I mentioned earlier. Every so often the world debates an agenda for change. Currently it is doing so and is at the concluding moments of the post-2015 development agenda, which will be adopted by the whole of the UN. This isn't just an arcane subject talked about by eggheads and academics. It's a practical statement by governments, and this time with requirements linked to it in regard to how to develop countries. Initially, and many of us here, or some of us here, have been working on this for years, migration wasn't conceded to be a relevant factor by many in the development agenda. A number of governments, many of whom I've mentioned already, and agencies have argued this case for years now, and they have succeeded, because the current zero draft, which is very close to the end, contains commitments, which are actual commitments which will be reviewed, to reduce remittance costs, to ensure financial inclusion and making financial services available to migrants, and to enable safe, orderly, and regular migration and mobility, to increase, therefore, regular migration, and to protect the rights of migrants. So this is going to be part of a global agenda. We have to, first of all, ensure that that actually happens. There are still some who would wish to exclude it. At international level, that will create an umbrella under which we can develop migration policy. Second point, we need to improve the governance at national and international level of the issue of migration. And we have to create a joined-up system at national level and at international level to make it work. We have to explain to our people, particularly the areas of the world where there's increasing evidence of xenophobia and racism, we have to explain to them the positive benefits of migration and the rights that migrants are to have, and that there's a difference also between refugees and economic migrants. For an example, in Europe, we have to share burdens. We can't dump the problem on Italy, which has already done far more than many other countries to deal with the crisis, for an example, in the Mediterranean. But you could say the same about other countries, where the Germans or the Swedes have taken far more than others by way of migrants into their community. And the figures are available, and it's being debated today in Brussels and probably blocked by a number of states. So the time has come for practical measures to make migration the issue that it really should be, both from a development context and from the context of the rights of individuals. We claim, finally, in the UN, to stand for the rights of man and the equality of man. Well, if you believe in the dignity of the human person at all, you should be actively engaged in the migration debate.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Peter, and indeed to all our panel. I think on this issue of remittances and development, it is clear that there is unanimity on the fact that they obviously can reduce poverty, but also increase shared prosperity for all. And all I would say is, as a member of the media, that the role of the media in explaining these issues that you've raised, and of course the difficult issues that you've raised as well, Peter, in this debate is a very, very vital one, because I think even if it is important to debate these issues in the public arena, even if we don't settle them, because it's much better to debate something without settling it than to settle something without debating it, which I fear is what's been going on now. Panel, please stay sitting, but I thank you very much indeed. I would like to invite to the stage and to take his pride of place at the lectern, Giampaolo Cantini, who is Director General for Development Cooperation at the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And of course, if you hadn't noticed, there is Expo going on at Milan, and the theme is Feeding the Planet, Energy for Life. So, Signor Cantini, you will give us some closing remarks, incorporating perhaps some of the things that have been raised this morning, both in our keynote speeches and on our panel. Thank you very much, Signor Cantini.
Thank you. Thank you, Zeinab, and thank you all the panelists. We heard just a great discussion on so many issues. It's not that easy to summarize. But first of all, let's put this discussion into context, into the international context. We are on the eve of major international events and processes. First of all, the international conference, UN conference on financing for development. This is the third one. This is going to be the third one after Monterrey and Doha. It will take place in Addis Ababa from the 13th to the 16th of July. So the issue of remittances will certainly be among the key elements of this international conference on the main flows of financing for development. It is true, like Ambassador Dhital said, that the remittances cannot replace ODA, certainly, especially ODA destined specifically to least developed countries. Though the huge potential that President Nwanze mentioned in his introductory remarks is there. It's more than three times the ODA flows, and it can be directed through the appropriate measures to productive uses. And Peter Sutherland at the very end, he was very clear when he put also in context the issue of the remittances and migration and development in the context of the agenda, the new agenda on sustainable development that will be adopted at the New York summit in September. But the key element is the debate on remittances should be part of the issue of migration and development. And there should be a recognition that migration is an enabling factor for development, is a vehicle for development. We worked on this issue during the Italian presidency of the European Union in the second semester of last year. We came to a document, a conclusion of the Council of the European Union specifically on this issue. And I'd like to thank Peter, who was very instrumental, along with the director of IOM, Dr. Swing, in helping this discussion and in supporting us with the other members of the European Union. Yes, reducing the cost of transport, but let's look also at the potential of the migration in terms as a vehicle of entrepreneurship. We tend to look at migrants as unskilled labor force. Not at all. There is a huge potential in terms of entrepreneurial skills and entrepreneurial capacity. Let's look at Italy. So far we have, at the last census, Italy has more than 8% of its population made up of immigrants. We have 477,000 businesses owned by foreigners in Italy, foreign residents. They make up 7.8% of total Italian businesses. We have 28,000 businesses owned by Romanians, 70,000 by Albanians, 8,000 by Senegalese, 7,000, 8,000 each by Egyptians, Tunisians, and other nationalities. This is very important. I mean, the diasporas, they are not only the vehicle, potential vehicle of the transfer of remittances and financial and other financial flows, but they are the vehicle of transfer of entrepreneurial skills and entrepreneurial know-how. Let's support it. How? Through schemes of international cooperation. International organizations, development agencies, national development cooperation agencies can help dramatically into this. And IFAD is leading, has a leading role, has shown the way, as President Nwanze mentioned in his introduction. Just a few examples. We, at the national level, we have helped implementing schemes and programs together with IFAD, with the International Organization for Migration, and also bilaterally, for example, in Senegal, just to assist in transferring the entrepreneurial skills back to the countries of origin. In Senegal, for example, we have enacted this program that is called Plaza EPRI, which is a platform. We have financed through a soft loan of 20 million euros. And we have some successful cases, many successful cases, of elements, small entrepreneurs of the Senegalese diaspora in Italy who bring their investments back to their countries. They have set up, for example, poultry farms, and they have done so along with Italian entrepreneurs. So this is a fantastic example of how migration can work in development. They can benefit their country of destination, their host country, but also their country of origin. And here also we have an example of a successful joint venture made up of a member of the diaspora and at the same time a small businessman of the countries of destination. We have other examples, the MEDA programs, for example, with IOM in Ghana and in Senegal. But also, let's think specifically, and this has been mentioned also, of the big challenges of food security, of hunger, and of rural development. Here we are just in the context of Expo, although physically we are beyond the railway line that divides us from the Expo site. But this very issue of feeding the planet and the very mandate of IFAD remind us of the need to do a lot, to ensure food security and to ensure that all measures are put in place to counter environmental degradation, the effects of climate change, the advance of desertification. So the schemes that can help convey the remittances to countries of origin and to communities that struggle with rural degradation, with the need to have better infrastructure, better access to credits, better access to markets is there, and we should fully recognize and we should support these schemes. So certainly, there is a lot to do in terms of lowering the cost of remittances. We have heard a number of measures that have to be taken. The G7, G8 commitment at the time made at L'Aquila in 2009 is there. The 5x5 commitment that was made in 2009 should be implemented. Italy, as we heard from Vice Minister Morando, is in the forefront of this effort, but more should be done. The G20 has taken this commitment on board. We should ask more from governments of the, let's say, industrialized and emerging economies, but also from the government of recipient countries. And we heard a number of measures that should be taken by the recipient countries in terms of lowering taxes, avoiding double taxation, etc., in the transfer of these costs. So As Her Majesty said, I mean, this is a huge potential. This is only the tip of the iceberg. It can be an enormous potential for development, but let's put it into the context of the positive side, the positive impact of migration on development, and of the role of diasporas once it is recognized and once it is supported by proper schemes and programs that favor a sort of circular flows of entrepreneurship and boost to local economies that can go along with migratory flows. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Signor Cantini. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Cantini, and thank you to my panel, and thank you to you all. That concludes this morning's events. You now break for lunch and bang on time. You reconvene at 2 o'clock, and at lunch, don't forget to raise a glass of wine or water, depending on your preference, to the International Day of Family Remittances, because after all, we are all members of that community. Thank you very much indeed.